Inside a colossal nuclear submarine, elite naval chefs weaponize thousands of pounds of raw cargo to fuel the deadliest warfighters on Earth. They must conquer high voltage equipment, extreme gravity shifts, and crushing psychological isolation. But how do you secretly conceal 8 tons of perishable food and safely deep fry meals during a violent 30-degree tactical dive? Let's breach the heavy titanium hatches and uncover the extreme, high-stakes reality of cooking at the bottom of the ocean. Right at this exact moment, 400 feet beneath the freezing Atlantic Ocean, a massive $13 billion Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine glides in terrifying, absolute silence. Outside its high-yield, HY-80 steel hull, hydrostatic pressure exceeds 170 pounds per square inch. Yet inside, the beating heart of this nuclear leviathan is a microscopic room measuring precisely 10 by 14 feet, manned by elite chefs. That is exactly 140 square feet of stainless steel deck space. It is roughly the physical size of a standard suburban walk-in closet. Yet, this tiny claustrophobic steel box is the ultimate tactical feeding center for 130 elite United States Navy warfighters. The elite culinary specialists, designated as the CS rating, must share this brutally confined operational battleground with massive industrial machinery. They stand firmly shoulder to shoulder, maneuvering continuously with surgical, unforgiving precision. One wrong step, one momentary lapse in critical spatial awareness, and the entire culinary operation catastrophically collapses. To sustain a classified 90-day strategic deterrent patrol, exactly 15,000 pounds of raw provisions must be meticulously loaded. That equals roughly 115 pounds of dense caloric fuel per sailor. Operating inside a highly pressurized, submerged steel tube demands supreme tactical discipline and heavily modified military equipment. Traditional combustible gas stoves are strictly prohibited under all circumstances. Open flames rapidly consume precious oxygen reserves and introduce uncontainable, catastrophic fire hazards. Instead, the tactical galley is heavily armed with fully ruggedized, state-of-the-art electric technology. Naval chefs operate massive 480-volt industrial convection ovens. They utilize highly calibrated, high-efficiency induction cooktops. They deploy specialized, pressure-controlled deep fryers holding up to 50 pounds of boiling oil. Every single appliance features double locking magnetic latches and heavy-duty structural shock mounts. These extreme engineering modifications are strictly designed to absorb violent acoustic vibrations radiating from the massive 34-foot propeller shaft. But the true terrifying test of this equipment and the absolute iron will of the culinary specialist occurs during extreme tactical maneuvers. Imagine handling that 50 pounds of violently boiling, 350-degree cooking oil while the 560-foot submarine suddenly executes a radical 30-degree emergency dive. Gravity violently shifts downward. The steel deck violently tilts beneath their boots. In any normal surface kitchen, this is an instantly lethal, catastrophic disaster. But here, the internal anti-spill baffles lock securely down. The magnetic countertops automatically hold the heavy steel pans dead in place. The specialized chef fiercely braces their physical body against the cold, heavy bulkheads. They flawlessly ride the extreme pitch angle, absolutely refusing to let a single drop of scalding oil escape. They aggressively conquer the kinetic chaos. They completely dominate the lethal environment. This flawlessly executed, high-stakes choreography is exactly what truly keeps the fighting crew alive. When a young 20-year-old sonar technician is emotionally drained, slowly suffocated by the endless artificial fluorescent light of a classified patrol, the chef rapidly deploys their ultimate weapon. From that tiny, hyper-engineered steel closet emerges a perfectly seared, piping hot, 16-ounce prime rib. That single, masterful plate of hot food instantly shatters the crushing psychological darkness. The dedicated chef literally feeds the immortal soul of the submarine. They securely hold the fragile sanity of the lethal warfighters together through unmatched technical excellence. The equipment functions flawlessly, but producing 400 daily meals demands massive ingredients. Once those heavy titanium hatches lock shut and the submarine dives, how do you effectively hide 7 tons of food? The United States Navy Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine displaces exactly 18,750 tons submerged, yet internal cargo volume is ruthlessly scarce. Massive Trident D5 missiles, complex nuclear shielding, and dense weapon silos aggressively consume 90% of the structural footprint, storing precisely 18,500 pounds of raw provisions, including over 5,000 pounds of dense animal proteins, 3,500 pounds of complex starches, and 5,500 pounds of heavy, preserved vegetables requires an absolute masterpiece of extreme spatial engineering. The logistical war begins weeks before the mooring lines drop. A massive military evolution known as the pack-out commences. United States Army Veterinary Command inspectors aggressively scrutinize every single incoming crate. Any slightly compromised item is instantly rejected. Submariners then execute a brutal teardown of the approved tactical cargo. Cardboard boxes are strictly banned under absolutely all circumstances. They generate highly flammable dust and breed deadly mold inside the sealed ventilation system. Everything is aggressively stripped down to its bare, elemental form. Ingredients are rapidly transferred into heavy-duty, military-grade barrier bags. Ambient oxygen is aggressively sucked out via commercial vacuum sealers to halt organic degradation permanently. This tactical packaging prevents accelerated oxidization and devastating moisture intrusion. The sealed packages are meticulously stamped with specific color-coded tactical labels containing exact expiration parameters. This rigid visual identification system allows the supply officer to verify precise inventory instantly under dim, red tactical lighting. Once inside the thick HY-80 steel pressure hull, the physical concealment officially begins in total earnest. The crew systematically transforms the operational submarine into a massive, hidden pantry. Over 2,000 heavy number 10 tin cans, holding precisely 2,500 pounds of crushed tomatoes and 3,000 pounds of green beans, are tightly packed into structural voids directly beneath the stainless steel deck plates. Sailors literally walk over miles of hidden vegetables and over 2,000 pounds of dense, bulk dry pasta daily. Emergency rations are tightly wedged beneath extremely narrow berthing racks. Preserving highly perishable proteins demands uncompromising thermodynamic control. The vessel is equipped with heavily fortified, triple-insulated stainless steel freezer decks. These hyper-chilled vaults are rigidly maintained at a bone-chilling -10 degrees Fahrenheit, securely locking away over 3,000 pounds of premium beef, pork, and poultry. They are fiercely protected by redundant multi-stage R134A refrigerant cooling loops running continuously day and night. If the primary compressor catastrophically fails, the secondary backup system automatically engages within milliseconds. Adjacent to the deep freeze lies the highly critical chill box, kept precisely between 33 and 35 degrees Fahrenheit. This zone holds the most valuable morale commodity, over 800 pounds of highly perishable fresh produce, 400 gallons of dairy, and exactly 300 dozen fragile fresh shell eggs. But a sealed submarine atmosphere is incredibly hostile. The continuous amine-based carbon dioxide scrubbers aggressively alter ambient humidity. To combat this invisible threat, produce is locked inside specialized, atmosphere-controlled microchambers, extending its shelf life by vital weeks. Merely storing over 9 tons of food is strategically useless without a masterfully executed battle plan. This is where the classified menu strategy dictates daily survival. Naval dietitians meticulously design a rigid 21-day rotating menu cycle. This exact mathematical rotation completely eradicates psychological menu fatigue. A submarine crew operating in total isolation requires precisely 3,000 to 3,500 calories per sailor daily. To meet this staggering demand, the tiny galley systematically incinerates through exactly 75 pounds of meat, 50 pounds of heavy starches, and 65 pounds of vegetables every 24 hours. To heavily fuel the punishing 18-hour rotational watch cycles, The exhausted crew consumes exactly 40 gallons of jet black, highly caffeinated coffee daily. Because these warfighters are entirely deprived of natural ultraviolet sunlight for 90 continuous days. Severe vitamin D and calcium deficiencies are imminent biological threats. The culinary specialists aggressively counter this by deploying fortified dairy, heavily enriched grains, and specialized vitamin-infused hydration packets. Every single meal is a carefully calculated nutritional countermeasure. Inventory management software rigorously tracks every single consumed gram of protein in absolute real time. The absolute climax of this intense nutritional war occurs at the exact midpoint of the patrol. It is known across the fleet as halfway night. By day 45 of a deep water deployment, human morale inherently fractures. The recycled air feels artificially heavy. The relentless metal bulkheads psychologically close in on the exhausted human mind. Suddenly, the mess decks are violently transformed. The culinary specialist breaches the deepest preservation vault. They deploy exactly 130 perfectly aged, blast-frozen Maine lobsters and over 100 pounds of massive, thick-cut ribeye steaks hoarded for this exact psychological rescue. When an exhausted torpedo man cuts into that flawlessly seared steak, the sheer sensory overload echoes through the silent steel hull. It is an explosive burst of undeniable surface reality. That single, masterful meal instantly resurrects the broken spirit of the entire watch section. It is a profound, strategic victory of human resilience. Sustaining this highly calculated daily burn of physical inventory requires absolute, flawless execution. Even a perfectly rationed 90-day loadout will eventually run completely dry. Geopolitical tensions abruptly escalate without warning. Command orders the submarine to extend its patrol beyond its internal capacity. The massive vessel absolutely cannot surface. It cannot pull into a friendly port. So, how do you execute a massive grocery delivery to a submerged tactical weapon system actively hiding from lethal hostile sonar? Executing a mid-ocean logistics transfer is the absolute most dangerous non-combat maneuver a nuclear submarine can perform. The ocean surface is a highly lethal kill zone. The exact moment the massive 18,000-ton vessel broaches the crashing waves, its acoustic stealth is violently shattered. Advanced low Earth orbit military surveillance satellites actively scan the tactical grid, capturing high-resolution thermal blooms. Every single second spent exposed on the surface exponentially increases the staggering risk of immediate detection by heavily armed enemy P-8A Poseidon anti-submarine warfare aircraft, hunting high above the clouds. Yet, starving the elite combat crew is absolutely not a viable operational option for strategic command. To execute this impossible logistical miracle, the United States Navy relies on the heavily specialized Military Sea Lift Command, a massive 41,000-ton Lewis and Clark class dry cargo ship is quietly dispatched to a highly classified, predetermined grid coordinate in the open ocean. The rendezvous is exclusively executed under the impenetrable cover of total darkness to ensure maximum stealth capabilities during the entire high-risk transfer operation. Both massive vessels strictly enforce conditions Zebra and absolute emission control. Designated as MCON, high-frequency radar arrays are completely powered down. Radio transmissions are strictly silenced. They operate as absolute ghosts in the pitch-black abyss. The nuclear submarine slowly rises from its 400-foot patrol depth, breaching the churning, freezing waves just enough to expose its slippery, curved upper deck. This highly choreographed evolution is technically known as a vertical replenishment, or VERTREP. From the massive flight deck of the supply ship, an MH-60S Nighthawk helicopter aggressively lifts off into the freezing night. Dangling beneath its heavy fuselage is a thick nylon cargo net holding precisely 3,000 pounds of critically needed provisions. The skilled naval aviator maneuvers the roaring aircraft directly over the exposed, rolling deck of the ballistic missile submarine. The massive 53-foot rotor blades violently whip the freezing salt water into a blinding horizontal hurricane, generating downward wind speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. The acoustic roar is completely deafening. Down below, The submarine deck crew braces fiercely against the unpredictable 10-foot swells of Sea State 4. The absolute climax of this logistical war occurs during the physical deck transfer. Imagine standing on a slick, curved HY-80 steel hull that is violently rolling 15 degrees in pitch black darkness. Above you, a 1.5-ton pallet of frozen cargo is violently swinging like a massive, lethal pendulum on a thick steel cable. But the physical crushing weight is not the immediate killer. The rapidly spinning helicopter rotors generate up to 100,000 volts of lethal static electricity. One highly trained petty officer, secured only by a heavy-duty nylon safety harness, must physically reach out and aggressively strike the swinging hook directly on its metal contact point with a specialized grounding wand before the payload detonates a lethal electrical shock straight into his chest. He flawlessly grounds the massive charge, aggressively unlatches the payload, and desperately signals the roaring helicopter away. This is a brutal, high-stakes kinetic dance where a single millimeter of miscalculation results in crushed limbs or sailors being violently swept into the freezing, unforgiving black ocean. For tactical scenarios where the submarine absolutely cannot afford to expose its hull, elite surface crews utilize rigid hull inflatable boats to silently approach the dark conning tower. They manually pass heavily waterproofed, dense tactical canisters directly through the specialized logistics escape trunks while the vessel runs awash. But whether by air or by sea, once the heavy cargo successfully breaches the titanium hatch, the internal war violently reignites. The submarine is highly vulnerable and cannot dive until every single pound is secured. An elite human chain of exactly 40 sailors, strictly known as a working party, is instantly formed. They rapidly pass the heavy frozen boxes down the steep 20-foot vertical ladders with blistering speed. The culinary specialists wait at the bottom, operating like a high-speed combat triage unit. They ruthlessly inspect, aggressively vacuum seal, and instantly integrate the new 3,000-pound payload directly into the depleted storage arrays in under 45 minutes. The heavy hatches are violently slammed shut and locked dead. The massive submarine instantly floods its main ballast tanks and silently vanishes back into the deep abyss, fully restocked. The vital physical supplies are securely locked away, but keeping the crew alive generates a terrifying new tactical vulnerability. How do you completely and silently eradicate thousands of pounds of highly toxic biological waste and compacted garbage without ever leaving a floating acoustic trail for advanced enemy hunter-killer submarines to perfectly track and actively destroy? Every consumed calorie inevitably generates a dangerous tactical byproduct: physical waste. Over a classified 90-day patrol, the crew produces over 5,000 pounds of crushed cans, heavy plastic packaging, and raw biological food scraps. Simply jettisoning this untreated garbage into the open ocean is absolutely forbidden by Naval Command. Floating debris creates a highly visible trail for enemy reconnaissance aircraft. To solve this vulnerability, the submarine utilizes a high-pressure system known strictly as the Trash Disposal Unit, or TDU. Operating the TDU is an intensely choreographed, highly dangerous kinetic procedure. Sailors rapidly compress accumulated trash inside heavy-duty, galvanized steel cylinders measuring exactly 9 inches wide. They must aggressively pack the dense waste to eliminate any internal trapped air. Trapped air generates positive buoyancy. Buoyant trash floats. Floating trash catastrophically exposes the nuclear asset. To guarantee a rapid descent, the crew inserts 10-pound solid steel ballast weights directly into the cylinder. The dense canister is violently loaded into the vertical TDU airlock tube. The inner titanium pressure flap is slammed shut and locked, dead. The specialized operator actively floods the tube with highly pressurized ambient seawater. They carefully equalize the internal pressure to match the 400 psi environment outside the hull. With a violent blast of compressed air, the steel canister is aggressively ejected downward. It plummets silently thousands of feet into the black trench, leaving absolutely zero physical trace. The tactical ghost remains completely invisible. With the physical waste neutralized, the relentless operational tempo of the silent service resumes. Time does not exist at 400 feet below the crashing waves. Submariners live entirely on a brutal, artificial 18-hour rotational watch cycle. This schedule dictates that the tiny 10 by 14 foot galley absolutely never closes. It operates continuously, executing 4 massive, highly complex meal evolutions every single day. They serve breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the legendary mid-rats, a highly caloric midnight ration for the graveyard shift. The culinary specialists endure crippling, exhausting 12-hour shifts every single day. They stand over 400-degree flat tops while the ambient galley temperature frequently exceeds 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Earning the right to command this high-pressure culinary battle space requires immense personal sacrifice. These elite professionals do not simply graduate standard military cooking school. They must survive the brutal gauntlet of basic enlisted submarine school in Groton, Connecticut. They undergo 8 grueling weeks of intense, high-stakes damage control training. They master advanced atmospheric firefighting. They rapidly plug high-pressure seawater leaks in total darkness, fighting violently against freezing water blasting at 250 gallons per minute. A submarine culinary specialist is a lethal warfighter first and a master chef second. They stand shoulder to shoulder with elite nuclear physicists and sonar tacticians, sharing the exact same operational risks. The absolute true value of the submarine culinary specialist transcends perfectly seared proteins and highly calibrated macronutrients. The ocean depths are freezing, utterly dark, and psychologically crushing. The endless, humming fluorescent lights systematically drain the human spirit. When the heavy titanium hatches lock shut and the vessel dives into the absolute unknown, these chefs become guardians of human hope. The absolute climax of their mission happens in the darkest, quietest hour of the patrol. An exhausted 22-year-old torpedo man does not find comfort in the cold steel of a Trident missile. When that young sailor walks into the mess deck and receives a hot, flawlessly crafted meal, a profound psychological rescue occurs. The chef takes raw ingredients and masterfully alchemizes them into an explosive burst of pure surface reality. They literally forge the psychological armor required to endure the crushing abyss. They do not wear the gold stars of an admiral, but they carry the crushing weight of the entire strategic deterrent mission squarely upon their sweat-soaked shoulders. Without their unmatched technical excellence and iron will, the human engine fails. The $13 billion submarine instantly becomes a lifeless metal tomb. If you were deeply inspired by the unmatched technical resilience and absolute dedication of these elite deep sea chefs, aggressively hit that like button right now. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel immediately for more highly classified, incredible deep dives into the brutal, high-stakes world of modern military engineering and advanced naval combat strategy. Thank you for watching today. We will see you tomorrow.